XDefiant's Double XP weekend started a bit later than expected yesterday, August 16, 2024, raising some concerns from the community about the state of the game and the development team behind it. Ubisoft just had some layoffs, including people who possibly worked at XDefiant. What a way to kick off a Friday. During the lead up to the game releasing, according to the article Tom Henderson wrote for Insider Gaming, people had been quitting the development team for the game during the cycle leading up to release. This brings the question about the game engine up again. Developers working on the team making the game knew and even told higher-ups that things needed to be done to make certain things possible and were ignored or told to find another solution that costs less money. I know some of you have definitely seen that scenario before in a workplace or business. Know-it-all boss waves off good advice only to turn around and blame you when things fail. People are starting to say that the netcode is not going to get fixed, not only anytime soon, but ever. Especially at the current rate things are going with the game. It's simply too expensive of an endeavor for the team, and they're currently trying to recoup money already spent during years of development to balance the books in order to keep obligations to investors. After all, they are a publicly traded company and legally required to do everything in their power to make a profit for shareholders, even at the cost of the quality of their game, even at the cost of laying off developers working on the game. In order for the netcode to get fixed in XDefiant, the Snowdrop engine requires massive overhauls and more manpower than currently feasible from a development or business standpoint. There are simply not enough developers on hand, not enough time of day, and even if there were enough developers, there are not enough of them specifically familiar with the proprietary systems in use by the game, likely putting us in a situation where more hands on deck are not only needed, but people would also have to be caught up to speed in order for all things to be on the same page. This makes it that much more baffling that Ubisoft is firing people that they wasted time and resources teaching proprietary softwares and stuff, only to have to eventually bring in new recruits and start that whole cycle all over again. The team at XDefiant is clearly being hamstrung by Ubisoft in terms of just how much backing they're receiving. And the current layoffs being done by Ubisoft in general are evidence that they're trying to reduce cost. Everything always does come down to the money at the end of the day. My proposition for Ubisoft and the XDefiant team is that although it may not be possible to fix core fundamental aspects of the game in a timely manner, which is a crazy thing to say, we need more content, period. There comes a point in time where not reading the room is simply going to be the downfall of the game. We cannot keep going on this current path. Parties and crossplay were things that seemed to be challenges during the development, with the netcode being reason for at least 6 months of delays being added on to the release of the game. The game was essentially pushed out of the door, no more time left to bide. This makes me wonder if it got released way earlier. Would user data and hands-on experience be helpful to have things in a much better spot right now? I know they had all these problems with the party systems and everything else, so it probably just was impossible to do that. But they could have benefited off many unhappy gamers during the Modern Warfare 2 2022 timeframe with all the slow movement and camping going on over there. As they say, timing is everything. What if I told you XDefiant not only used to be Tom Clancy's XDefiant before they dropped that portion of the name, it also used to be known as the Division Battle Cat. The Division was the very first game on the Snowdrop engine. XDefiant was slated to be a Division-based FPS game before Mark Rubin was on board. So overall, this game has been in development for a decent amount of time. It's been under different studio heads, different teams, and the only really continuous thing is that it's been under the same exact engine and it's had the same exact challenges ever since it started. What that leads me to believe is that the Snowdrop engine, as good as it is for creativity, for coming up with new maps and new ideas with a small development team, maybe the game really does need a different engine. In the meantime, they need to be leaning into the strengths of this engine. They need to be giving us more content, more maps, more modes, just more. Even though those things don't necessarily one-to-one make up for fundamentals like netcode, they give the player more to do in the game. The last thing that you want, aside from the bugs and all the problems, is just players to feel like they don't really have any reason to get on the game. Nothing to work for, no point. I'm really starting to kind of worry and wonder as well with the recent slowdown in communication from the developers, as well as this news of layoffs and everything. Is this game going into maintenance mode? Is it impossible that they're going to make the steps necessary in order to turn things around? Because at a certain point, time is running out, and at a certain point, time has run out. And, no amount of be patient or we're working on it are going to really hold people at bay anymore. Rewriting or changing the netcode within the current engine may be possible over more time, with more data from players over time. Or it may be a situation where the game simply is not making enough money for Ubisoft and doesn't get the support it truly needs to make changes at the pace necessary to meet the demands of the market. I think the game may have even gotten a better reception if it was released as an early access title, because that's essentially what it is in its current state. The game is definitely a work in progress. I think with live service being in a relatively early stage in gaming, we're starting to see more of the downsides of it in terms of works in progress. The problem a lot of people have with something like the situation of XDefiant is like when a celebrity or a billionaire tries to wear normal clothes and drive a Prius, complain about gas prices or something, and be like, I'm just like you guys. Except in the case of this game, it's a quadruple A developer masquerading as a small indie dev team, even though it's not the developer's fault they're short-staffed or underfunded. Perhaps the marketing team for the game doesn't want to put that type of label on it, early access, because that would almost admit that the game has already been a work in progress for quite some time. Maybe it wouldn't justify the items in the store or whatever the reasoning may be. I personally believe that it could actually garner some more support and patience from the people if they called it early access and admitted it was a work in progress. I mean, they kind of have, but transparency was something that the fans and community around the game appreciated from the get-go. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from the current situation with the game, from a marketing standpoint to a development standpoint to an artistic standpoint, with missed financial opportunities within the battle pass and the store. A lot of the items could have just been a lot cooler and would have generated more income for the company. Things like the plain blue or plain green skins in the battle pass really remind me of the old filler content from Loot Crate Call of Duty days. At the end of the day, constructive criticism is totally different than hating on something or preying on its downfall. I feel like when you give ideas, when you give inputs that can be actionable, where the developers could actually use this to make positive impacts on the game, I don't find that as being complaining. I just wanted to share some thoughts with you today. Hope everybody's enjoying the Double XP weekend, or whatever you're doing with your weekend in general, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy, everybody.